today I'm working on the M3 again before I jack it back down. Changing the power steering fluid and the bottle with the filter built in, and one of my hoses is leaking and it runs up that way. So I'm going to be replacing that hose. So this is the hose I'm replacing while I'm replacing the bottle. And that's the part number right there for it. The bottle I got is a ZF bottle, and that's the part number right there. I also got one big clamp and one small clamp, but you actually need two big clamps. You need one of these type of tools to crimp the clamp. And this is the one I got. I actually use this on hoses for water and fittings, so I didn't even know the car had this type of clamp, and it actually came with a whole bunch of clamps. I didn't actually need to buy clamps because I already had clamps, but I didn't know. You need two copper washers. Part number for the washer is right there. To remove the line, I have this tool right here. I've never used it before, but I'm going to be trying it out, and that's the part number for it, 7263. And that's what I'm doing today. For fluid, I'm going with Redline D4 full synthetic, and I'm using 2 bottles of this because my car uses ATF. Now I'm going to begin by removing the intake first. So I'm just going to pull the whole intake tube off with the filter and everything, and this piece in the front here. The line runs up right there, and it goes across and connects to the bottom of the power steering reservoir. So I'm disconnecting and replacing that line. So with the 2 lines that run over there, we got them both together here. One goes to the bottle, and then the second line connects on the rack. That line, I'm going to loosen it, and I'm just loosening the banjo bolt on it, and that's how I'm going to drain it and flush it. You can see the 22mm banjo bolt right there, and it's the one on the left. The original bigger line that goes from the reservoir to the pump, I'm not replacing that line, I'm reusing that one. Now I'm going to loosen the cap on my reservoir before I loosen the 10mm bolt holding it in, because this cap can be really tight and not want to come off. So to get it off, I'm just going to put a flat blade against here and tap it to try to get it out. And it's loose. Alright, now we're going to remove the 10mm bolt holding the reservoir, and everything should come out easily. And that broke loose already. And I'm not taking the bolt out all the way, that should be good enough. And the reservoir is easily movable now. OEM cap says ATF on it. I'm going to reuse my OEM cap and just swap the new O-ring over to this cap. I have a fluid transfer kit for replacing differential fluid, so I'm probably going to use that to drain out as much fluid as I can out of the bottle right now. Or another method is you can use a turkey baster. We got our Harbor Freight transfer pump. I normally use this for differentials and stuff. So I'm just going to put this hose into the reservoir and then run the second hose into my drain pan and then pump it out. We got the hose in there in the reservoir, and we pumped it into the pumped it into the pan there. And that's it, there's none left. The bottle is out now. One was just a regular star point for clamp, which is aftermarket, I guess, and this looks like it is a ZF bottle. This hose had this clamp on it. To break it loose, this part was pretty much hooked on here, so I just wedged a flat blade in and pried it off. Alright, so for this is how it was installed on the car, and to get it off, all I did right here is where you stick your flat blade in, and then you just pry and it'll snap loose. Snap back together, you just squeeze it back together until this part here will hook back over to here. Grab it and squeeze back together, and that's it. I slid my tool on there. And then push down. Seems to have worked. It did work. The line is now off. This black line, I'm going to loosen the 22mm banjo bolt right here. And that's what I'm going to use to flush this system. So I'm going to have to put a pan under there because a lot of fluid's going to come out, I'm assuming. Alright, it's broken loose. Now let's unscrew it. Make sure you got your container. Catch your fluid. And there you go. The banjo bolt came out with one copper washer, then it passes through the fitting, and then there's a copper washer on the other side. So one on this side and one on this side. And you could reuse those copper washers, but I got new ones because I didn't want to take chances of leak. I put the hose downwards so it'll just drain into my pan if anything comes out of it, and then the hole that the banjo fitting came out of, that's just going to drain now when I go to flush it right now. Unlock the steering wheel, turn it side to side, left and right. So I'm just going to go back and forth, and I can hear the fluid being pushed out. So I'm just going to keep doing this to get out as much fluid as I can. I got as much fluid as I can out, so now I'm about to connect back the banjo line with the two new copper washers. So I gotta do that, and then I'll move on from there. Part number for the copper washer, so I'm using 2 of these, and I'm going to retorque the banjo bolt to 30 foot-pounds. Got the bolt, I'm going to put a washer on there, and then I'm going to slip this over through my fitting. Once it's through the fitting, then on the other side I'm going to put this washer on the other side. So that's on there right now. Now we put the other washer on the other side, and then screw it on in the hole that goes in, which is right there somewhere. And that tightens to 30 foot-pounds. Torque to 30 foot-pounds. This is our new hose, and I'm going to install it onto the bottom of the bottle here. And I already got my clamp on there. So I'm gonna pull that off, slip this on there, and that's ready to go. That's ready to clamp on. And I'm just gonna position this to where it needs to be. I do need to swap this cap, or I could just use the new cap, but this new cap doesn't say ATF on it. It says the other fluid. So I want to use the other cap. So I'm just going to steal the O-ring off of this one and put it onto my old cap. Alright, I got my old original cap that says ATF on it, and I took the O-ring off with a pick. One of these right here. So now I'm just going to put this on here. I'm going to put some oil on it first. So just putting some ATF on it so it slides down a little easier. Then I'll just get it on there. And I don't want to roll it, so I'm just going to stretch it on with my pick. And it's seated on there. So now I can reuse my original cap on my new bottle. I want to see where this hose has to position when it's on the car, so I could crimp this clamp while it's still off the car, because I don't want to, it's probably going to be harder to crimp it while it's on the car. My tool right here, and crimp this on. This pretty much just fits over there, fits over the head, and then I just squeeze it. So I just gotta get that onto there. Crimper tool on there, and this is position. I already set the hose where it needs to be, so now I just gotta squeeze this in and crimp it. Here it goes. And that's it. That's how it looks once it's crimped, and this will probably never leak. But these clamps are a one-time use. Pop this hose out with the same way. Just wedged the flat blade in there and then pop the clamp loose. So now this hose came loose. So I was able to take off this hose completely. Now I'm just going to test fit this hose the same way and crimp it on to the bottle. So I'm going to position it on the bottle where it needs to be. These are now crimped and ready to go back on. The new hose from the bottle, I just got to pull this cap off. And this just snaps on to the fitting right here. Get it on there straight and then push it straight up. There it goes, it's clicked on. I tried reusing the original clamp there, but it wouldn't work. Should have just bought 2 of the bigger hose clamps instead of 1. So yeah, that's what I ended up using, is one of the crimp style clamps. I'm gonna tighten up the 10mm holding my bottle and then start filling it up with some ATF and bleed it. We got our long funnel in our new bottle, and we got our ATF, or if you're using other kind of fluid. And I'm just going to top this off because it will go down. Just top it off right there, and it's about a quarter of a quart left, so it took 3/4 of a quart. And I'm just going to start bleeding it. I'm just going to not start the car, just turn it on and turn steering side to side, and as it goes down, just add as needed and just keep adding until all the bubbles are out of the system. Alright, the reservoir went down some and there's a lot of bubbles in it. The air escaping. I'm just going to top it off some more and start the car and then add as needed and let the car run. So I just have it idling, turning the steering wheel side to side, and flushing out the bubbles. It didn't even take a full quart, so I didn't even use a full quart. so I have a second quart backup, I guess. I'm just gonna let it idle and circulate for about 5 minutes, and then I'll turn it off and put everything back together. I just checked the fluid, and it's perfectly at the max fill line, which is right here. The second line right here is the fill line. So you want to fill it to this right here, no more than that. First line right here is the minimum line, and the second line right here is the fill line. So I have mine filled perfectly to the fill line. I just finished and put everything back together. Intake's back in, and there's no leaks or anything. And everything's looking good so far. Got our new bottle down there. So that's it for the power steering flush and filter on my E46 M3.